So we've had a few people ask whether, when we've been just at art shows or music festivals or different places, how is an episode made, and sort of what's the process and what is there to expect?
And by the way, everybody, this is just the third year off the rails again.
We're off the rails again, and let me start out the discussion by saying this. Typically with any kind of audiovisual product that's made, you sort of go through a series of steps. Classically or traditionally, it would be having a concept, then doing what we call pre-production, then doing production, which is actually the filming, and then post-production, which is the editing, and adding a special
our
effects.
producer does all that.
He does all that, thank God, because that is not my bailiwick.
Yeah, it's not mine either.
Yeah, and then some people would, after that, marketing or promotion. So from concept to marketing, promotion, and distribution. So if someone was making a feature film, that's sort of the ideas. And so let's start out with the idea of concept. When we decided to do a podcast, we were focusing on real life, real people, real stories, real life.
Well, and we weren't even sure. We had just built the studio, and we were initially thinking of someone else could come in our studio and pay us to produce their program, whatever it was.
And we're still open to that, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, the company does make some money, but it's more from sponsorships.
Yeah.
But that could change. And we call it the third chair because there's two co-hosts and we have a
most
guest.
important person is
in the center.
chair.
Yeah, and usually they're the eye candy of the show.
Although we've had a few, not so much. And sometimes we've even had a fourth person, and they get to borrow my stool with the cushy cushion on it.
Yeah. In which case I guess we'd have to call it the four chairs.
Well, let's just keep that easy.
Yeah. So
The third chair plus one.
yeah, and so some of the idea of the concept of the show was to have people share their stories with some emphasis on the idea of what kinds of hard things they've overcome in their life. And so not just the story of what was hard, which is always interesting to hear, but also what they did about it so that that kind of information could be shared with the audience and perhaps be a chance to learn something that maybe someone else is struggling with. And
We talked to a lot of brave people on this show. They've done amazing things.
And overcome some hard things. I remember we had one guest who happens to be a deacon at the church I go to, and I just asked him, like, tell me something nobody knows about you, and he tells me the story that he was actually buried in an avalanche, carried a mile under snow, and dug himself out, and that unfortunately the friend he was with was killed, and like it was like, and that experience.
That was a quick one, but I mean, it had ramifications for life.
Well, that gentleman, that experience led him towards the direction of mental health counseling. And so we love to hear, we're not looking for perfect people. You know, we're looking for people that have...
I think we can look for perfect people because if we find a perfect person,
I did
beat
invite
everybody
Jesus
else.
on the show, but he said he's a little
we
bit...
would beat everybody else because
yeah, that's right.
despite what some people think, there's nobody that's perfect here. I mean, we try.
Yeah.
We're trying the best, and we struggle along as best as we can.
Well, the other sort of things we try not to do. We try not to talk politics. We definitely don't talk COVID because we really want this to be more of discussions and the challenges people have had rather than all the political battling that goes on. There's other podcasts that people can watch if they...
There's plenty of those.
Plenty of...
If you type in something about politics, you'll get probably up in the millions.
Yeah, I mean, and if you do a political podcast, great, fantastic. I watch my fair share. But that was sort of not the direction that we were taking with the show. And so how do people become guests? Well, we're active with a number of different groups in the community, especially the artist community, but also whether it's from people we know from church or sports or recreation.
You met a person at a garage sale.
You met a person in a garage sale. They had an amazing humanitarian work, taking toothbrushes and dental hygiene and toothpaste, living on their boat. Was it the Caribbean they were in?
Yeah, they were in the Caribbean.
Yeah, Caribbean and also up in Bahamas, which are a little north of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you were like minding your own business at a garage sale, struck up a
The only
conversation.
reason I went to that garage sale, because I don't go to garage sales anymore, is because they had on their sign, it said midlife crisis garage sale.
Oh, wow. So that piqued your interest.
It piqued my interest, and their midlife crisis was they got a boat.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
then when the toothpaste and stuff was when they saw that these kids were struggling, and they
Yeah.
thought, how can we help them?
Yeah, that was a remarkable story. I would love to live on a boat, I think, for about 2 weeks. And that boat needs to be the size of a cruise ship.
And you've done that.
Yeah, the idea of living on the boat is a very fun idea, but then you start thinking about maintaining the boat, and it's not like they're out there and they say, "Oh, go get the engineer to fix the engine."
Yeah, or being in the middle of nowhere and running out of gas.
I don't think the three of us would be very good at that.
Yeah,
I
or
mean,
surviving.
this
It's
room.
like, hey,
Yeah.
we're cruising along, and all of a sudden, 100-mile-an-hour hurricane hits.
There
I
was a
guess we
couple-
should have stayed in port.
The 3 or 4 times it sounded like their life was in some type of danger.
We'd have to have a yacht for us, so anyone who wants to sponsor the show at the level that we get a yacht, we're all for it.
Yeah, I don't know if we'd buy a yacht, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have to probably save for a couple of years.
We'll move the show to a cruise ship and just do it. Think how many guests we could get on a cruise ship.
Boy, that'd be great. On the other and what a great place to have a business meeting. A business meeting, yeah, on the cruise ship, because they certainly would like that to be tax deductible, Mr. Auditor Accountant.
First order of business is the buffet.
Yeah, exactly. And so we've had guests on of many different ages. I don't think we've had anyone on under 18, but we've had some young 20s.
Well, we did have, when we went on location once, we had a young man that was like 16.
I think that's the youngest.
Yeah,
As a general rule, we avoid
we
that.
try to avoid that, yes.
We officially say on our YouTube account, this is not made for kids. Not that there's bad stuff, but we have adult talking points.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
kid happened to be at, he made a movie, and that's why we talked to him.
Yeah, oh yeah, he was at the
Yeah.
at the regional film festival.
Right.
The awards, yeah.
Yeah.
Was he the guy that made like an entire movie on his phone, an
Yes.
animated movie on his phone?
I know, that was quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, and it was a short film, but it was like 8 or 10 minutes long.
Young man.
Yeah, it's amazing what modern technology can do.
Yeah, but the way he did it was a lot of work, and and you talk, some people say, well, kids today, they don't do anything, but you look at the work he put into that.
That's right.
And you see other kids that are doing a lot of stuff that are similar, and he's like, no, they're doing something. It's just different from what we did.
Well, and I know I use the technology on my phone. I can play chess against the computer on my phone.
Which is good because it gets your brain working.
Yeah, and I think the oldest guest was in his 90s, was he not, or late 80s?
We had Dick Crabtree, and he's
93, wasn't he?
He's 93 now. We had him like a couple years ago. So he was in his
and he
90s.
still golfs.
Still golfs.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about more about the process of contacting guests and guests contacting us, and we'll also talk then what happens in the process that we call pre-production. Welcome back to the... Oh, can you want to reset the timer?
Oh yeah, I won't steal a minute from us.
Welcome back to the third chair. I'm Peter. There's Doug. We're doing an off the rails episode, and we're talking about the process of producing an episode that goes up every Thursday night. We started with the idea of concept, how we came up with this and what we wanted to accomplish, and we've moved on to talking a little bit about some of the things we look for in guests, and we do have people that watch the show that contact us asking if they can be on.
And we've had a lot of those people on.
And so we've zoomed them in from all kinds of places. New York,
Los Angeles, Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City. Have we done an international guest yet?
Not yet, but
No.
we keep working on it. As long as they, I'm not good with languages, so I don't want to translate.
Well, and if you have to find a good time that works for someone in Beijing, that can be a problem too, because they're like 12 hours off or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, and we have this promise to guests that there's no gotcha. We let people tell their stories. We're not here to embarrass anyone or make anyone look bad. It's the opposite way.
At least the guests we don't embarrass.
Yeah, the host, that's a different story.
We try to facilitate the guest with our questions and everything.
Yeah, and we always...
We used to give them more questions, but I think only one guest ever had a problem with a question or two.
Yeah, and we have ways of dealing with that. So if you're in town, if you're in the Colorado Springs area, one of the things we do before we film is we actually have like a sit-down meal together and have a chance to sort of do a warm-up and we find out, if there's areas of a person's life that they don't want to talk about. I mean, we're not, this is not like somebody interviewing a politician that's, forcing an answer.
We've never had a politician on the show. I'm not really trying to get one either.
No, I
If one wants to come on, we wouldn't talk about politics. It's like when we talk to a minister, we talk maybe how what it's like to be a minister, but we don't talk about his profession.
Yeah. Even though one of our pastors, when we asked him to be on the show, he sent 4 deep theological questions. I was like, no, that's no. We just want to know about you.
Yeah. And we found out he fished a lot and
sure
how he became a pastor and that story, and that was, some of them. I mean, if you're pastors, their past lives are kind of interesting. You
less than
less than perfect.
Less than perfect. Less than pastor like.
Yeah.
And the thing too, we tell people. I mean, we're not asking people to give any sort of religious dissertation, and not just Christianity, Jewish, Buddhism.
Yeah.
But we're very interested if someone's overcame something that's hard and they want to share how they did it, and part of that involves their faith or spiritual beliefs. We let people tell the story. We're not here to shut that down. So we have a meal here together, and we do a lot of laughing in our pre-production time, and the other thing that's happened ahead of time is that Doug and myself, we do some research on our guests just so that we can figure out what they're passionate to talk about and what they're into and that sort of thing. So part of getting ready for an episode is there's a little homework involved.
Yeah, you have questions. I mean, we write about 2 pages of questions, probably enough for a 3 to 4 hour interview.
But we use less than that.
We use less than that, and
Or at least Mr. Producer turns the cameras off after 2 hours.
Cameras off, turns the lights off, locks the door to the studio.
I was an auditor, and they said the questions you write are supposed to relate to the questions the follow-up questions you ask later, and that's the most important thing. And I think with our guests, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
They're telling a story, and there's an interesting point. And I think we do a good job of that. Is like, oh, wait a minute, you said this, something we're not expecting, and like, can you tell us more about that?
Sure.
Well, I mean, avalanche was the most obvious one because it was like, oh, we don't have any questions about avalanches, but
Yeah.
I mean, because you got to stop for that. But we found some other things out about guests. It's like, and they kind of glossed over and says, wait a minute, let's go back to that because that's something we want to explore more.
And artists are pretty easy because most of the artists we have connected through initially through Instagram, and we're able to go and their art tells their story. But that led us to being down at Lightspeed. I think we've done 6 episodes at Lightspeed so far.
Yeah, Lightspeed is Lightspeed Art Curations. It's an art gallery essentially.
Yeah, really, and it's an art gallery that it's not the one you go in, you're afraid to touch anything, everything's shiny. It's designed for artists of all kinds and give them an opportunity to show their work.
And I think another thing worth saying, because we interview a lot of people and potential guests. Some people are really comfortable telling their story, and some people are not. And so, if for whatever reason someone has a personality that they just are not comfortable in front of a camera or talking about even something that's, let's use the word, non-threatening or whatever, then we try to make a determination. If they really want to do it, there's lots of things we can do to help the process, but we don't force anyone to come on and talk if
they don't want to talk about an issue, they don't have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And the pre-production meal helps a lot with that because we always explain that the only difference between the pre-production meal and production is there's no food.
Yeah.
It's just conversational. It's not designed to be like on a news story that has some kind of agenda to tell something else. We let them tell their story. We don't have to agree with them. We don't have to live the same lifestyle, but we do respect their story and give them a chance to tell it.
And we bring in we either cook some great home food. Doug makes a really great chili with some sort of meat that we don't exactly know what it's from.
You never know.
You never know.
Especially Doug's wife, because you never know, maybe I stuck seafood in the chili.
Yeah, and we've been known to also bring in some very fine fried chicken.
Yeah, that's pretty much the other option. We have whatever I or Donna cooks, or if Peter and Doug are bringing, it's chicken.
It's chicken. Now we've done a little seafood. I think we've gone to a few commercial places that make fish sticks.
Yeah, we got some tacos too.
And of course, we always are asking guests. Do they have? We've had people that are vegetarians and vegans and have gluten issues, and so the way we produce the show, you can see that it's, and maybe some people can do this really well. I'm sure there's really a lot of smart people out there, but there's a fair amount of time that is invested even before anyone sits down in front of a camera.
I think there has to be.
Yeah, some organization. But at the same time, a lot of it's just sort of a general roadmap. We do a little ad-libbing, improvising.
No, we do a lot. No, I think you have to in a show like this because the guests, you read about the guests, you know about the guests, but you don't know. There's a lot about the guests.
The guests will take us in different directions.
And
Your
you gotta
questions are
follow
good,
the
but
guests.
they're a guideline.
Yeah.
That
they're
if
not,
the guest says something is more interesting than the questions, that's where you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're not script, they're guidelines.
I mean, we had one episode with Arthur Belfield, who's a comic book creator, and I couldn't believe we did a whole episode just talking about comic books. Now that surprised me, but I thought it was a really interesting discussion. And he was passionate about it, and then I found out that Doug over here is somewhat passionate about the whole comic book field, and his brother is too. And so
my brother is more than somewhat.
Yeah.
Hey, Peter, you're the only one in the room that's doesn't really enjoy comics.
Yeah, I know. I've got
We'll work
issues.
on you.
Sure. And so we'll talk a little bit more about pre-production, although we've covered quite a bit so far when we come back from this break. Hi, Peter and Doug here from The Third Chair. We're looking for a win-win situation. We want to keep these videos put up on a weekly basis, and we want to help you succeed with your business adventure.
And we've brought up as a show a lot of important issues that people are interested in, and we brought up a lot of local actors and artists and bringing them forward, which helps them as well as our audience members in finding some of these things.
So there is an email on the screen. Send us a note if you're interested in knowing about some of our sponsorship packages. Welcome back to The Third Chair. I'm Peter. This is Doug. This is Off the Rails. We're talking about how we put together an episode for putting up on YouTube. We've talked about concept, how we came up with the idea and what it is and what we're looking for, and how we invite guests and research them and come up with what we think are interesting questions. And we try to find out what they're passionate to talk about, because we want people to have a chance to talk what they're passionate about. And then we have a pre-production meal together. And then finally, when it's all said and done, we come down to the studio where we're actually doing production with cameras and sound and lighting and all that. And one of the things we've learned from our own experiences, but also seeing the experiences of others, is that it's really easy to not turn the right equipment on.
Yes. And I mean, we had our own troubles. We had to film
Music
rap video.
Yeah, rap
twice,
video. Yeah.
Because the first time we recorded it, we had it, but it corrupted.
Yeah, the SD card or whatever.
SD card corrupted, and so now we know enough to get a backup. Make a backup so you have two SD cards with them on, and then if one corrupts, you still have the other one.
You know, and you learn there's all kinds of little things that can affect getting good quality. Everything from pets in the house that are running or jumping to,
Or anyone upstairs that decides to move across the floor.
Yeah,
Dogs barking.
batteries running low.
We've had some emergencies, and and then we go. We've been done a few shows off
On location.
On location, and that's a lot of prep, because we got to decide what equipment to bring.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we scout the area early so we know how much lighting, if we have to bring lighting, where's a good place to film.
Well, I one of the biggest challenges that I think we've run into is when we're on location and there's a rock band playing 30 feet from us that we didn't know was going to be there.
Yeah, sound becomes a problem, and it's not our equipment. We could probably go with some lapels or something for you guys and spend some money on that. But we have 3 mics that we bring on location, and they're good mics. But sometimes a location's not like our studio's prepped for sound. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's good except for the roof where the cats jump on. We filmed at a couple of places where post-production was really difficult in getting enough sound out to where people could understand what was being said.
Yesterday I was listening on the radio to the end of the Bronco game, and they had noise from the crowd that made it difficult to hear the announcer, which is kind of surprising, because this is a famous radio station that's been there forever. They have power. I've picked it up in other states, the power. And then they had trouble with their sound at Bronco, which is one of their big programs, is to do the Bronco game.
Well, and one of the things they use at all the games, they use ambiance mics through the crowd. And if you don't have the right person running it, and you think professional, but my wife and I went to the AJR concert in the summer, and it was done at the soccer field here in town. And the camera work and sound work, it wasn't great for people who get paid, well, a whole lot more than I get paid to do this.
Yeah, so sometimes even the professionals have troubles with the sound, and it's kind of surprising, because, when you turn on TV seems to do, because, well, the news is about the only thing live, all professional sports, but I've never really seen them have that many problems, but it's kind of surprising to have the Bronco game on the radio. That sound wasn't that great.
And we have guests come in and they sit in the chair and we shoot 10-minute segments and 5-minute segments, and we generally carry on as a conversation. We don't do a whole lot of editing unless a guest says something that they said, I shouldn't have said that. That's too personal, too private, and then we'll edit that out. But if a guest stumbles over some words, we're not going to worry about that.
And to date, with by the time we filmed this, we were at episode 134. We have never done an edit on a segment. We've never had to.
Yeah. And that's partly, I think, because we do a good job with pre-production, because we find out ahead of time if there's areas off limits, and we just don't go there. But we like to reassure the guests that if there's something that they said that they really don't want public, then we'll deal with it. And we do a lot of laughing on set as well as on our breaks. Sometimes to the point when we're ready to film, everyone's laughing and not paying attention.
Sometimes I take the cut from the break and use it against you guys.
Well, yeah, and the other thing we've learned, we back up our work as we film. As we mentioned, I know I had one friend who had her wedding videoed and none of the video came out. All of it was lost, and we've had that happen as well with the rap video. And so we're extra cautious. We do two things. We back up everything, but the other thing we do is we have our cameras and everything set up, but we go through a checklist just like an airplane pilot would to make sure the right cameras
Not as long, but we make sure the right cameras are turned on or appropriately turned off, as well as the mics and the lights and everything like that.
We do that because we knew of a game show that was being filmed in Colorado Springs, and there was they filmed all their breaks. Part of the problem with cameras that you have to get used to is red means go, not green. So people will naturally think, oh, the red light. We don't use the red light on this, but the red light means go, and they went with that.
As opposed to a traffic light,
yeah.
where the green light means go.
They went with red light means stop. They probably had some really good footage for their breaks, but they didn't produce their game show.
Yeah, and just so errors are reduced, there's lots of smart people, but it's just so easy to overlook a step or think you've done it, and forcing yourself to actually say, camera X is on or off, just significantly reduces.
Yeah, we're not the only ones. My daughter just got married, and the camera person, he was taking pictures, and every once in a while he'd look and say, what are you looking at? He says, basically I'm looking at if I got this saved. Because I don't want information lost, so he was making sure he had it saved somewhere else, so he he would not lose the pictures because he's the type, I guess he travels around doing weddings and so he's like one after another, so he has to identify his stuff pretty carefully and everything, and if he loses one, that's not good for his reputation.
No, and you can reshoot a rap video and have everyone back. You can't reshoot a wedding or
no, that's special moments.
You've lost that. That's sort of why, as a company, we decided we're not doing weddings. Too easy to have very angry brides.
Yeah, if we lost that information, I don't know.
We do want to live after the wedding if we're there.
Yeah, for sure. So when we come back, we're going to answer the question: if you join us, what is the time commitment from the time you arrive at the house where our studio is in the basement until you're done? So we will answer that question. We'll have Doug answer that question when we come right back. Well, you go for it.
Welcome back to the third chair, and we are going to discuss how long your commitment is when you come here. Well, when you come here, we usually eat within the first 5 minutes after a quick introduction to us.
But it does take us longer than 5 minutes to eat.
And we have a nice meal, and we have a nice discussion. And I think, 45 minutes?
Yeah.
If that, 30 to 45?
Yeah,
depending on
probably
the
closer
guest.
to 30, sometimes a little longer, yeah.
Yeah, depending on the guest. And then we come down to the studio, and we show the guests, the studio and where they get to sit, and we give a little explanation how the filming will work. And then we start filming, and it's 4 10-minute sessions and 1 5-minute.
And that makes one episode.
That makes one episode, and it takes about 50 minutes because we have the
2 to 2.5 hours is our average run.
Yeah, so if you're here at 6 o'clock, you can expect to be done around 8:30,
yeah.
And then we have cigar and brandies on the deck.
Yeah.
No, I don't drink. But I do smoke an occasional cigar, if truth be known.
Yeah, well, Doug used to smoke a cigar.
Yeah, I did until I started getting deathly sick from it.
And then but we don't have a drink, the guest is probably pretty tired because it is somewhat intense because you're talking about yourself.
We did have a guest show up with his own pineapple and vodka, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine if someone wants to do that.
He didn't share it with us or anything, but yeah.
And there's a little break. We've had guests that want to smoke a cigarette halfway through or puff on their vape or whatever. So we make some time for that.
They go up and go outside somewhere and
Yeah.
smoke on their cigarette. But you know, and we sometimes we don't know when the show is gonna come out, but we always have contact information, and we let them know the Monday ahead of time, like the show's coming out Thursday, because all our shows come out Thursday, and you know, and when the guest is here, basically they spend most of their time in front of the camera, and to them it's kind of intense, because I know talking about yourself is intense.
Oh, sure.
You
Now,
know.
I'd like to throw one other thing in. Sometimes we have younger ladies that are guests, and we always tell them that they're welcome to bring a guest. And we've had...
But we do have at least one of our wives here.
yeah, usually Mr. Producer's wife.
Yeah,
she
because
lives
this is
here.
her house.
Yeah.
You know, but one of our, because we don't want, anything untoward happening.
Yeah. We just keep it really straightforward and transparent in that way. And what's really interesting is sometimes we've had a lady guest who has brought a male friend guest, and when we've tried to ask her questions, the male wants to answer them all, and it's clear like he actually wants to be a guest on the show too. So it's been kind of fun to see.
Before, and it's like, okay, you can come.
Yeah, we'll schedule a session for you.
Yeah. And it's worked,
And
I think most of the guests are kind of surprised when they are finished, because they'll say, "Wow, that was kind of fun," that was fun, because I think I know I would be nervous before coming to the show, so we try to make the guests as comfortable as possible.
Oh, sure.
And
there's no gotcha. We're not trying to
yeah.
make anyone their stress level high or put them in a position to talk about.
And so yeah, basically they say, yeah, we.
And what never happens, even though we said it does, in between the episodes, we do both episodes the same night. We don't make them stay down here in the basement and me slide a pizza underneath.
And before, when we did that, when we filmed 2 episodes, we would try and change clothes. But then we just decided, nah. Film me in the same outfit.
I'm still hoping someone says, boy, these men don't have any clothes. I'm going to send them some clothes.
Yeah.
If you want to send them some clothes, just reach out to us.
Yeah, exactly. And what else about guests? We're always surprised what people want to share, and we've had guests, and people are not obligated to do this. We really try hard to have people not talk about what they're uncomfortable with. But we've had people that just say, "Look, I want to talk about I was sexually assaulted as a child."
We had a couple guests.
Those kinds of things,
At least
or
3
eating
guests
disorders, or having an eating disorder, because they want to say what they did to get better and to get healthy, and that was as important, if not more important, than them just sort of sharing a horror story.
Amazing stories is what these people did to get healthy.
Yeah, it surprised me. So I think part of our preparation and relaxed vibe is good for that. Anything else about getting guests or the process before we actually film? So we sit.
Well, we probably ask a lot more guests than what we get.
Yeah.
It's about probably a 5-to-1 ratio. We ask 5 people, we get 1. But sometimes we'll, like Arthur Belfield, he had started liking our stuff on Instagram, and I sent him a note, and he was, yes, when?
Yeah.
He already told me in the message, I can do Mondays and Tuesdays as long as I know when. I sent him a list of dates, and he was on immediately.
Oh, sure. And
we had some guests that were the volunteers to be on our show. They
absolutely.
saw our ad on Instagram, and so we didn't have to ask them. They said, we just talked to them afterward and said, this is what we do.
So I think it's fair to say, for guests on the show, there's a lot of talking and inviting and meeting people. You know, if you're planning a webcast with guests, it's expect that to be a significant portion of time investment. It's not like you're going to get a whole bunch of guests. Well, some people would, maybe if they're really famous for whatever reason, but you know, there's a lot of meeting people, having conversations, buying coffee, and you know, before people might even be comfortable with you to agree to the show. So the filming part, you know, it goes actually really fast. By the time we're done a 2-hour session, we've filmed 8 10-minute segments and 2 5-minute segments.
And someone said, we're done already?
Yeah. And one of the things we do is we also broadcast locally on Comcast 17 in town, the library channel. And so they have rules about you can't put ads on, but a guest is allowed, in the course of conversation, is allowed to talk about their business, what they do, how you contact with them, and that's fine.
We have a lot of artists, and you know how they contact them. If you want,
If you want them to do a
if
portrait
you
of
like
your
their art,
dog,
and I
or
mean
whatever.
we've seen their art.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some very excellent art from a lot of artists we had on the show.
Sure.
But our guests need to know we put contact information out. Someone may contact them, and we don't control the person or why they're contacting.
Yeah. So, and people that have a website and contact information on a website, they probably have experienced an occasional inappropriate person contacting them. We don't encourage that. And so that is, and we've had many guests that say, "Oh, I have a friend, and I think they might be interested." And so, you know, if you or you have some friends and you'd be interested in being on the show, do check us out and send us an email. Or if you see us like at an art show in town here, First Friday, there's a number of art shows around town, and I've been starting to go to some local concerts and seen some cool bands and began to talk to band members, and you know, hopefully we'll continue to get a great cross section of guests. When we come back, we will talk about something. I was going to say post-production, but we might start that discussion. We'll see when we're right back. Hi, I'm Peter from Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching, and as you know, I do help people with drug and alcohol recovery issues. I love to help people get better, but I also offer a variety of other services, including regular life coaching services. I've helped several people write and finish a book. I've helped a doctor that was in medical school graduate and then get into a residency. And I also actually have quite a background in mathematics, and I do some math tutoring for the GED as well as the ASVAB for those that are thinking about a career in the military. So my contact information is on the screen. Please send me an email or a text, and we can talk about some of these services and how I can help. That's Peter Grigg at Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching. Oh, welcome back to the third chair. There's Doug. I'm still Peter. Doug, Mr. Producer Doug, is back there somewhere.
I'm always back here pushing buttons, mostly pushing their buttons because it's more fun.
So, post-production, which is classically thought of as editing, insertion of special effects, any other stuff that's... of course, adjusting audio levels. If you have a music guest, mixing, whatever.
Making like a Star Wars movie or Disney animated movie.
Or when you did the Dove, putting people on a pirate ship in a state that didn't have a pirate ship.
So any sort
is-
of
that
green
can take
screen
two-
work.
And we've
See,
done a
we're-
little bit of that too. We had last year. We had you guys sitting behind a fire like you were cold. You were wearing coats down
We only
here,
did an episode review.
and
Yeah.
you were just behind the green screen.
Yeah.
So you looked like you were behind a fire, but
Yeah, well, you
You know
know,
how Hollywood is, since it can take about 3 years to do some of those post production.
yeah. So
Some of the actors
for,
forget they were in the movie.
well, some of the films, yeah, especially things like Transformers or the
Special
super
effects or
hi-fi.
animation.
Yeah, I'm sure the Marvel movies had 18 to 24 months of
Yeah.
special effect work. So we have a little bit, but not a huge amount.
But I mean, the producer, does this by himself, so it takes him a little time to do.
Yeah, well, we both looked into training to do editing. I lasted about 2 minutes, and I think you went
Doug
half an
stayed for the
hour.
whole class.
I stayed.
Oh, I stayed for the whole class. I just didn't
You
pay
were in
attention.
other rooms.
You were-
I was
you
talking
were-
with future guests.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get.
You were looking for the coffee, if I recall.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
looking
you
for the
found
coffee. Yeah,
and-
after 50 minutes.
And that really brings up several really important points, and that is, not everyone is cut out to be an editor. Yeah, there's certain skills and perhaps even personality and temperament to be able
You
to
have to have
sit
a lot of
and
patience.
looking frame by frame. I mean, I just know it's not
That's
my.
why those movies take so long. Is sometimes you have to put a little thing in every frame, and then the way it was described to me, there's you can have 16 pictures on top of one
Yeah,
another.
each.
It's subtracting and
Well, we
adding.
film at 24 frames per second in high definition, so every second is 24 frames, and a
So-
frame is fast. I mean, there's not even a time scale.
It's about 1/24th of a second per
Yeah.
frame.
Because our trainer at the library, who helped us a lot on this.
Yeah, we're trying to get him as a guest on the show.
Yes, and he does his own animation, and he says sometimes for one frame he'll have take 100 drawings of animation and put them together on one frame, and
Yeah.
that is a lot of work.
And when you film on location, sometimes you have to. The camera sees color differently from us, so you have to fix that. And if you're using two cameras on a location, the difficulties is they're different brands, they don't see either. So you have to match the color so that because people will notice if it's one brighter on one, not on the other, or more red or more green.
And of course, there are different programs that you can use for editing, and each of them has about 1,000 training videos. Depending on what you want to do. So it's really a
But,
very big
there's-
investment of time.
There's a lot of things you can do, but you got to learn them
Mm-hmm.
because it's not.
And then there's a lot of it. I've learned a lot by trial and error.
Yeah,
We
that's not
use-
surprising.
The Adobe Creative Suite, which our primary ones are Premiere Pro, which is where the show is put in together, and then we use After Effects if I need to do some effects that involve 3D angles, especially with the text. But I mean, it connects to the equipment. I'll throw some shots up. I mean, we've upgraded our equipment a lot over the years. We have the 3 microphones up there. They're boom mics. They all connect to our soundboard. Our soundboard goes into a recorder, and then we have a separate recorder for my mic, and then we have our camera. We use a Sony NX Cam for our main camera. All that comes together, and then I put that into the program, and I tell the program to sync it up, and then I have to figure out. But then the other part is B-roll. B-roll takes the longer portion, depending what I have.
So B-roll is like other pictures or clips or interesting facts that you can insert somewhere in the main content of what you're filming to add depth and interest. Now, one thing that sometimes isn't talked about a lot, but you need computers for editing that have a certain capacity and storage and memory and these are
speed.
and speed. And these are frequently not just sort of your regular laptops you would buy at Best Buy. They're often, I would imagine, closer to formal gaming computers in terms of ability and storage. And
Well, our
all
first one is over here. We used that for a couple of years, about 3 years, and it just got behind. And our last one, now we have an Acer that we use, but it's a gaming level computer that uses the same thing any gamer would use. And but what I like about it is it's portable now. I can take it with me when I need to go. I don't have to hide out in the basement to do editing anymore.
You know, so the editing process is not just the skill that a person needs to learn, but some of the equipment can be a little bit pricey. Yeah. And so that's also, you know, a good point you made about making an episode in general, is that you can start off filming something just on your cell phone, but eventually you begin to see, okay, there's some limitations, and now I need to upgrade microphones and cameras and monitors and all the stuff that goes with it. And so you find you reinvest in your company a lot.
Yeah, and in Colorado Springs, we're lucky, although we have all grown that. If you're starting off, our library, not only do they have lessons, but they got cameras you can check out, or you can
Use there.
film at their studio.
Yeah, that's
But
21C. Library 21C, yeah.
21C at Briar Gate. But
Definitely
that's
worth going to if you want to start out.
But also, you won't be the only ones wanting to use that equipment.
And that's where we rented, even when we were back in doing Day of the Dove, we became more involved with the project, and there just wasn't enough time at the library for us to do it. And we had grown a little bit beyond it, and gave them a chance to give other people a chance to start.
We did a Christmas episode.
In the snow, a snowstorm.
And they came in at one point and they said, "You got a half hour left to shoot," and we still had.
Yeah, and we
started
budgeted
with a 4-hour block.
Yeah.
And this was snow this is Colorado. We did not expect any snow, and all of a sudden we had 6 inches of snow.
And so, I mean, we said, okay, we're not going to memorize lines, so we're just going to do a lot of ad-libbing here. And we came out with a very interesting version of 12 Days of Christmas that you wrote, and that probably half your lines were, I know all the ones I made up. I think I used yours.
Peter made it halfway through because we didn't have enough pizza for everybody because we
so I went out in the middle of the storm to get more food, and got back just in time for the final.
For the 9th or 10th day of Christmas.
I walked in.
It was a
had to put down the
miracle.
chicken. I think I had gone to Popeyes and had to toss the chicken and jump in for a couple of shots.
And we didn't film much after that. I mean, we completed our hour, but I mean, it was like, no reviewing of the script. I mean, I know my brother and I got out for one part, and Doug said, just do this, and we just ad-libbed the whole.
Yeah.
We were
the whole
scrambling
scene.
just to break everything down because we used their green screen plus 2 of ours.
Yeah.
And then they came in and said, okay, you got 10 minutes left. I think we filmed one more thing, and we closed down and we got out of there. Just
And so I'm trying to think in summary, to put an episode together, we spend at least a couple of hours finding a guest, researching them. On the day of filming, it's a 2.5-hour commitment, and then editing is probably 10 to 15 hours an episode, something like that.
Now it's probably around 8 hours. I've
All right.
gained in skill and learn processes, but when I first started, it was quite a bit more complicated. If I have to do any animation, that'll take a little bit longer.
So that's a fair amount of time. So this is what we've learned, and we've learned to be fairly efficient. There's probably ways others that are more talented could do it faster, but we look at say on average 12 to 13 hour time commitment to get an episode up from start to finish.
Yeah.
Well, that is something about our show. Please notice that we do have, and we'll put this information up, an Instagram, a YouTube. We're on Rumble. We're on YouTube. There's ways to contact us if you ever would think about if you wanted to be a guest.
Right, Facebook, and I'll also put the email address up.
And you put the email address for those people that still use email. I know.
I think a lot of people do.
I think a lot of people still text, or what amazes me is people that primarily do business through Instagram direct messaging. I know Amy, who is on our show, the fly tying gal with.
She advertises on Instagram.
And she does. She conducts all
orders on Instagram.
Yeah. She does. She doesn't do anything by. She has a Gmail, but I'm not sure she looks at it more than once a month.
It is for people who use, because even Donna, who's been on the show, my wife, who does also a lot of the food, she's an artist. Everything is on Instagram through the messaging system.
Yeah.
Everything, and it's the one social media site I think where direct messaging isn't people trying to get a date with you. It's people actually trying to conduct business.
Well, I know I haven't had too many requests for dates on my Instagram. Occasionally, my wife.
And you're really upset about this too.
No, I'm not. As a matter of fact, I post virtually nothing on Instagram. I use it just to follow our guests and artists that have shown interest in the show. Well, anyways, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you know when we put up another episode. If you're interested in being a guest, please reach out and contact us. We promise it'll be a great experience. And if you're out of town, we can do some things by Zoom. So for all of us at the third chair, good night.
Good night.
This is